And now let's get to the final story about an older brother whose younger sister stole $30,000 from him. But instead of holding her accountable, their parents defended their golden girl no matter what. Family is always the strongest support. That's what I believed until they made me repay a debt I never borrowed. And the one behind it all? What would you do if your family asked you to stay silent instead of seeking justice? Listen to my story. Hello everyone. I'm James Carter. At the time, I was 29 years old, working in finance in New York. I had always prided myself on being responsible and carefully planning everything, especially regarding money. I never took on debt, never spent recklessly, and always prioritized stability. My family is a typical one. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, always valued emotions over logic, believing that family was the most important thing, no matter who was right or wrong. They loved me, but I always knew I was never their favorite child. That title belonged to Jessica Carter, my younger sister, who was 26 years old. Jessica was ambitious, but impatient. From a young age, she chased bold dreams. Opening a cafe, starting a fashion business, investing in cryptocurrency, but every attempt failed. And whenever she stumbled, my parents picked her up using their money or mine. I used to think that one day, Jessica would grow up and learn to take responsibility for her actions. But then I discovered she wasn't just relying on me. She was deceiving me, and that's when everything changed. 3 years ago, on a quiet Monday morning, I finally had a day off after a long stretch of exhausting work. No work emails, no meetings, just me. A hot cup of coffee, and a rare moment of peace on the balcony of my tiny New York apartment. I cherish moments like these, few and far between but precious. The ringing of my phone shattered the silence. A strange number flashed on the screen. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Hello? James Carter? I'm calling from Atlantic Bank. We're reaching out regarding your loan. Your payment is currently 3 months overdue. An immediate action is required to avoid penalties. I frowned, feeling a flicker of irritation. Loan? I repeated, making sure I hadn't misheard. Yes, a $25,000 loan was disbursed 3 months ago. You haven't made any payments. And if this isn't resolved soon, your credit score could be seriously affected. I let out a short laugh, convinced this was a mistake. I've never taken out a loan from your bank. There must be some error. The line went silent for a few seconds before the woman's voice returned, now more serious. Could you check again? We have all your information, your name, address, social security number. The funds were transferred to an account under the name Jessica Carter. The coffee in my hand suddenly lost all flavor when I mentioned my sister's name. Jessica Carter. A chill ran down my spine. I gripped my phone tighter, my heart pounding. Can you send me a copy of the loan agreement? Minutes later, an email from the bank appeared in my inbox. I opened it. My name, my address, my social security number. But what left me frozen in place was the signature at the bottom of the contract. A signature that looked very much like mine, but I knew without a doubt that I had never signed anything like this. What had Jessica done? I didn't want to believe it. Jessica could be reckless, even hopelessly idealistic, but she wouldn't outright deceive me like this, would she? But as I stared at the loan contract in front of me, with a forged signature that looked exactly like mine, all my doubts vanished. Jessica had done this, and I realized I should have seen it coming. I remember 6 months ago when she came to me, eyes filled with excitement as if she was on the verge of changing the world. James, this is a guaranteed win. I have an opportunity to invest in a biotech startup. They're revolutionizing the medical industry. You need to help me secure a small loan. Across my arms, leaning back in my chair. No, Jess. You've already failed with 3 different ventures. I can't keep covering for you. Jessica pouted, then suddenly lowered her voice. You don't have to give me any money. Just sign a financial authorization. Let me take out the loan myself and manage the investment. When it succeeds, you'll benefit too. I hesitated. Jessica was my sister. I always believed that one day she would finally make it. And the last 3 times I had believed the same thing. First attempt, European minus style cafe, lost $15,000 for years ago. Jessica came up with the idea of opening a European minus style cafe in the city's heart. New York is overrun with industrial coffee chains, James. I want to create a cozy, stylish space where people can come and experience something different. I supported her not just with words but with a $15,000 investment. First, everything seemed promising. Jessica secured a small rental space, decorated it beautifully, and even built an Instagram page that quickly gained thousands of followers. But she failed to realize that running a cafe wasn't just about aesthetics and good coffee. The rent was too high. Ingredient costs kept rising. And Jessica, always full of ideas, never had the patience to plan things carefully. After 6 months, the cafe shut down. Rent was unpaid. Supplies were left unused. I lost $15,000. Second attempt fashion business lost $20,000 2 years later. Jessica came up with another idea. James, this time I've done my research. I'm launching an online fashion store selling exclusive designer clothing. Sustainable fashion is the trend now. People are willing to pay more for eco-friendly clothes. I sighed. Jessica, do you have any experience in fashion? I have an eye for style. I also found a small manufacturing workshop in California. They'll produce my designs. I warned her about the risks, production costs, advertising expenses, fierce competition with established brands. But Jessica was too excited to listen. And once again, I invested, this time $20,000. At first, sales looked promising. But Jessica quickly realized the fashion industry was far more competitive than expected. Unsold inventory piled up, Facebook ads burned through money without generating profit. After 8 months, she had to shut down the website. I lost another $20,000. Third attempt cryptocurrency lost $12,000 a year later. Jessica came to me again with a can't miss opportunity. James, I've done my research. There's a new cryptocurrency about to explode. If we invest now, we could double or even triple our money. I had heard enough about crypto scams, but Jessica seemed convinced about this project. I've joined their inner circle. I know this isn't a scam. After relentless persuasion, I gave her $12,000 to invest. 3 months later, the cryptocurrency crashed. The founders disappeared, and so did all my money. I had lost nearly $50,000 on Jessica's reckless dreams, and she always promised me, this time will be different. And now, with the bank calling about a debt I never took, I realized I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I drove straight to Jessica's apartment, my heart pounding. My mind raced with questions. Why would she do this? Did she even understand the consequences? I slammed the brakes in front of her building, nearly jumping out of the car. My grip tightened around my phone as I took 2 stairs at a time. I knocked 3 times hard and firm. Seconds later, the door swung open. Jessica stood in oversized pajamas, her hair tied up in a messy bun and a bag of popcorn in her hand. Her eyes were still groggy with sleep, but a smirk crossed her lips when she saw me. Hey, big brother, you look tense. I didn't answer. Instead, I held up my phone, the screen still displaying the email from the bank. The bank just called me. Do you have anything you want to explain? My voice was lower, more dangerous than I expected. Jessica shrugged, popping popcorn into her mouth, chewing lazily as if I had just asked about the weather. Oh, that loan. She raised an eyebrow. Relax, James. I just needed a little working capital. I'll pay it back as soon as my project takes off. I felt the e-tries in my body, my chest tightening as if someone had placed a weight on it. Working capital? I repeated, each word sharp as a blade. You forged my signature to take out a loan. That's a fraud, Jessica. She rolled her eyes, sighing as if I was overreacting. You signed the authorization, she said, her voice infuriatingly casual. You gave me permission to do this. I froze. No, I thought back to the financial authorization I had signed 6 months ago. I signed it because I trusted it would only be used for legitimate investments. I had never agreed to let her take out a massive loan in my name and spend it however she pleased. And now, she was twisting it, manipulating the situation to make it seem like I was at fault. It all became crystal clear. I had given her power and she had used it to betray me. Jessica looked at me, completely unfazed, and that was the moment I realized she wasn't sorry, not even a little. I walked out of Jessica's apartment, my mind spinning with a fury I had never felt before. She didn't think she had done anything wrong. She wasn't worried or remorseful. She believed she had the right to do this because I had once signed that financial authorization. But what worried me more was whether our parents knew. And if they did, would they take her side? I pressed my mother's number. The phone rang 3 times before she picked up. James, what's wrong? Her voice was as gentle as always. I didn't waste time. Did you know Jessica took out a $25,000 loan in my name? A long silence. Then, she sighed. Just one sigh, but it was enough to give me my answer. James, she's your sister. You should help her out a little. I let out a bitter laugh, cold and sharp. She's ruined my life. I shot back, feeling like my chest had just taken a direct hit. Mom's voice remained calm as if she were reasoning with a stubborn child. You have a good job and a stable income. For you, $25,000 isn't a big deal. But Jessica, she wouldn't be able to manage without you. I grip on the phone tighten. So that's all I was to them, not a son, not a brother. It's just a financial safety net. I should have seen it earlier. They had always shielded Jessica from small failures to massive mistakes. Every time she screwed up, they asked me to step in. But this time, this wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal. I can't just pretend this never happened, I said, my voice low, almost dangerous. Mom stayed silent for a few seconds before finally softening her tone. All right, come home tonight. I'll have Jessica there. We'll sit down and talk as a family. I no longer believed a family dinner could fix this. But I needed to look them in the eye and hear once and for all what they saw me as. So I agreed. I arrived at my parents' house that evening, tension coiling in my chest. My anger wasn't directed at Jessica anymore. It was at my parents too. The people who should have stood on the side of what was right but instead chose to protect her. The door swung open and I stepped inside. Jessica was already there. She lounged on the sofa, one leg crossed over the other, a glass of wine in her hand. Her expression was relaxed as if nothing serious had happened. My mother sat at the dining table, her face tinged with concern but not anger. My father stood near the fireplace, arms crossed over his chest, his face unreadable. None of them looked surprised to see me. My mother spoke first. We need to have a serious conversation about this. I didn't sip. I ignored my mother's expecting gaze and stared directly at Jessica. You either pay back the money right now, I said, my voice like steel, or I'm calling the police. Jessica raised an eyebrow, then scoffed and shook her head. You won't do that, she said, taking a slow sip of wine like I just said something amusing. You're the good son. The good son. My fists clenched. Of course. I had always been the responsible one. The one who sacrificed. The one who stayed silent whenever Jessica screwed up. And they thought this time would be no different. My father finally spoke, his voice heavy. James, think about Jessica. Do you want to see your sister go to jail? I turned to him, my glare sharp. And what about me? My voice rose, cutting through the room. Has anyone in this family thought about me? Silence. I looked at each of them. You're not mad at Jessica for deceiving me, I said slowly, every word slicing through the air. You're mad at me for refusing to accept it. Jessica rolled her eyes and sighed like I was overreacting. James, don't be so dramatic. It's just a loan. I have a plan to pay it back. I let out a dry, humorless laugh. Oh, like last time? Like your cafe that shut down in 6 months? Like the fashion business you abandoned? Like the cryptocurrency scam that wiped out everything? Jessica pressed her lips together but still tried to keep her composure. This time is different. I need a little more time. I shook my head. No, Jessica. This time, you're on your own. I turned to my parents. I've helped her too many times. Again and again I believed in her. But this isn't just another mistake. She betrayed me. I locked eyes with my mother. And you knew. You knew. And you still defended her. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line, irritation flashing in her eyes. My father furrowed his brows, his voice low but firm. James, this is a family matter. Don't turn it into a legal issue. I let out another bitter laugh, this time utterly devoid of warmth. Family, I echoed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Then what am I to this family? A son? A brother? Or just a walking EDM? Jessica propped her elbow on the armrests, sighing. Fine. What do you want? She snapped. Money? I'll pay you back. Just stop blowing this out of proportion. I stared at her, my voice ice minus scold. No, Jessica. I don't want the money. The room fell silent. I took a deep breath, straightened up, and met my parents' eyes. I want justice. No one spoke. I stepped forward, placing my hands on the dining table, looking at every person in the room. If she doesn't pay back the money immediately, I will go to the police. For the first time, Jessica blinked, a flicker of unease crossing her face. My father's fists clenched, his jaw tightening. But he forced himself to stay calm. You're going to send your sister to jail? He asked. I met his gaze, and wavering. No, Dad. She did that to herself. I'm just done helping her get away with it. I turned and walked straight to the door. I didn't need to hear anything else, because I already knew. They had made their choice. And for the first time in my life, so had I. I stepped out of my parents' house, shutting the door behind me without looking back. The anger in my chest burned hotter than ever. Not just at Jessica, but at my parents too. The people who should have protected me, yet saw me as nothing more than a free bank. Driving home through the dark streets, I felt like I had finally cut a rope that had been strangling me for years. This time I wouldn't clean up Jessica's mess. I was no longer the brother who sacrificed everything. Jessica would face the consequences on her own. The following day, I woke up feeling different. No more doubt. No more struggle between family and justice. There was only one Ruth. I had been betrayed and would not stay silent. I sprang out of bed and pulled open the curtains. Morning sunlight flooded my apartment, but a storm was about to break inside me. I grabbed my phone and scrolled to the number of Richard Hayes, a lawyer specializing in financial fraud. The call lasted less than 5 minutes. I need to see you urgently, I said. 30 minutes. My office, Richard replied. I didn't need more time to think. I threw on my clothes, grabbed my already prepared folder, and walked out the door. Richard Hayes' office was in a sleek glass high-rise in the city's heart. When I walked in, he was already seated behind his desk, a steaming cup of coffee beside him. He looked in his 40s with salt and pepper hair and sharp, calculating eyes that studied me the moment I sat down. Who do you want to sue? Richard asked, his voice calm and professional. I clenched my fists, taking a deep breath before saying the two words I never thought I would: my sister. There was a brief silence. Richard didn't look surprised, but his gaze sharpened slightly. Like this wasn't the first time he had heard a story like mine. I see, he said with a slight nod. Then let's start with the evidence. What do you have? I opened my laptop and pulled up the meticulously prepared files without hesitation. Emails from the bank confirming the loan was taken out under my name, but deposited into Jessica's account. A copy of the loan contract with my forged signature. Jessica's text message is admitted she had used my financial authorization to secure the loan. Bank transaction records show the money was withdrawn immediately after it was disbursed. Richard scanned the documents with the precision of a hawk analyzing its prey. After a few minutes, he leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. This is a clear case of financial abuse and potential fraud, he said. If the bank acknowledges that the signature was forged or the authorization was misused, they may escalate it to investigators. If they don't, we can take it directly to law enforcement ourselves. I nodded, my voice steady and unwavering. Do it. I want to file the complaint. 2 days later, I sat in Richard's office again. This time, there was no hesitation. No guilt. I held the pen, staring at the document in front of me. A financial fraud complaint. This signature, I wouldn't regret it. I signed. The file was submitted the same day. The bank would launch an investigation. If they confirmed that Jessica had abused the financial authorization to take out the loan, the case would be escalated to law enforcement. I set the pen down and looked at Richard. He nodded. From this point on, it's out of your hands. But I think you just made the right choice. I didn't say anything. There was only one feeling washing over me: relief. I once thought that standing up against my family was the worst thing I could do. But now I realize staying silent and letting them continue to use me would have been far worse. This time, Jessica would face the consequences herself. The next day, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was Mom. I let it ring for the first time until it went to voicemail. But she called again. The second time. The third. Finally, I picked up. What are you doing? Her voice was frantic. You can't report this to the police. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I didn't report it to the police. I reported it to the bank. If they decide to take legal action, that's between them and Jessica. Silence. I could picture her standing in the kitchen, gripping the phone tightly, her eyes filled with stress. James, you're ruining your sister's life, she burst out, her voice trembling with anger. I let out a hollow laugh. No, she ruined her own life. I'm just not cleaning up after her anymore. Mom exhaled sharply, as if she couldn't believe I was doing this. She's your sister, James. You can't do this to her. I took a deep breath, my voice dropping. Just the sound of her heavy breathing on the other end of the line. What had I expected? An apology, an admission that I mattered just as much as Jessica. I knew that would never come. You're not going to withdraw the complaint. Mom's voice was smaller now, like this was her last hope. I tightened my grip on the phone, knowing for the first time in my life, I was the one who hung up first. After Mom's call, I knew exactly what would happen next. Jessica called. Once, twice, three times. Her name flashed across my screen repeatedly, but I didn't answer. I had heard enough lies, enough excuses. Then the messages started flooding and James, pick up the phone. We need to talk. What are you doing? You can't do this to me. You know this isn't a big deal. Stop overreacting. It's just a loan. What's the big deal? I stared at the screen reading every message, but didn't respond. An hour later, I blocked her number. I had given in too many times. I had given her too many chances. But Jessica had never learned her lesson. And I wasn't going to listen to another excuse. I thought Jessica would give up. I was wrong. That afternoon, loud, frantic knocking echoed through my apartment. Bang, bang, bang. This time, ignoring it wasn't an option. I got up and walked to the door. My heart wasn't racing with anxiety. It was pounding with anger. I opened it. Jessica stood there, breathing heavily, eyes wide with panic. Her face was flushed. Whether from rage or fear, I couldn't tell. You have to stop this, she practically screamed. I crossed my arms and stared at her. No, you have to take responsibility for what you did. Jessica clenched her fists, her eyes twitching as if she couldn't believe I was standing my ground. Are you insane? You can't do this to me. I raised an eyebrow. What exactly am I doing to you, Jessica? I haven't done anything. You did this to yourself. She shook her head repeatedly, her hair whipping around as her panic grew. You don't understand. If the bank pushes this to the police, I'll have a criminal record. I won't be able to take out loans. I won't be able to start a business. You're ruining my life. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Ruining your life? Jessica, I wasn't the one who forged his signature. I didn't steal someone's identity to take out a loan. I didn't spend that money with no plan to pay it back. You did that. You ruined yourself. Don't you dare blame me. Her eyes burned. But this time it wasn't just anger. It was fear. For the first time in her life, Jessica realized that I wasn't the good, obedient brother she could manipulate anymore. For the first time, she understood that I had cut off every escape route she had. You can't do this to me, her voice wavered, barely a whisper now. I looked her straight in the eye, my voice unwavering. Again, and I will. I didn't slam the door in her face. I just stood there watching as the realization sank. The game was over. A week passed. 7 long days filled with missed calls from Mom, from Dad, and unknown numbers. Jessica, no doubt, borrowing someone's phone to reach me. I didn't answer. I had nothing left to say. After everything, there was only one thing I was waiting for: the bank's decision. And then on Monday morning, the most critical email appeared in my inbox. I opened it, my eyes scanning the words. Subject: fraud investigation outcome. Dear Mr. James Carter, after a thorough review and investigation, we have confirmed that the financial authorization you granted was misused to conduct a financial transaction without your explicit consent. We have determined that Ms. Jessica Carter used this authorization to take out a loan without your direct approval. Due to this activity's fraudulent nature, we require Ms. Carter to repay the loan within 10 days. Failure to do so will escalate the case to law enforcement for legal action. Sincerely, Fraud Prevention Department, Atlantic Bank. I reread the email, letting every word sink in. So that was it. Not only had the bank confirmed Jessica had abused the authorization, but they had also issued an ultimatum to repay the money or face criminal charges. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. A part of me felt relief. Justice was finally on my side. But another part felt something strange creeping in. Not regret. Just the knowledge that Jessica didn't have $25,000 to pay back. This meant that if she couldn't come up with the money in 10 days, this would officially become a criminal case. Did Jessica understand that? Maybe for the first time she finally did. After the email from the bank, I just sat in my apartment staring out the window. I didn't bother checking my phone anymore. Mom had already called over a dozen times and the messages kept pouring in. James, come home now. We need to talk. You can't let this go too far, James. Don't be stupid. I didn't reply. And then, just as I expected, there was a knock at the door that evening. Bang, bang, bang. Not frantic, not desperate like Jessica's, but firm enough to tell me they weren't leaving until I answered. I stood up, walked to the door, and took a deep breath before opening it. My parents stood there. Mom looked more worn out than usual, her hair slightly disheveled, her eyes red and swollen as if she had been crying all day. Dad was as stern as ever, but I could see disappointment in his eyes. I'm not disappointed in Jessica. In me. I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway, making no move to invite them in. "Did you read the email from the bank?" I asked, my voice calm and even. Mom swallowed hard, looking at me with pained eyes. "James, you can't let your sister walk into a dead end like this." Dad stepped forward, his voice dropping to a low, heavy tone. "If you go through with this, you will no longer be a part of this family." The words landed like a sentence. They had made their choice. I studied their faces, searching for any trace of regret, any hint that deep down they knew this was wrong. But all I saw was disappointment. At me, not at Jessica. I let out a cold laugh. "Then I hope you're happy with your golden child." Without waiting another second, I slammed the door shut. 9 days passed. I kept checking with the bank, hoping the loan had been repaid. But every time I called, the answer was the same. The loan remains unpaid. By the 10th day, I finally understood. They weren't going to pay. At that point, the bank prepared to escalate the case to the fraud investigation unit. If that happened, Dad would be questioned, Jessica wouldn't escape responsibility, and my entire family would be dragged into a legal battle with no way out. I had all the evidence. I could let them face the consequences they deserved. But then I asked myself, what do I gain from this? Will it make me feel any better? Do I want to watch my family suffer, humiliated by the law? No. I didn't need that. I just wanted it to be over. So I paid the loan myself. $25,000 was significant, but it wasn't just money to me. It was the price of finally breaking free from them. A few hours later, the bank called Jessica to inform her that the loan had been paid off. I imagined the moment she received the news. Maybe she was stunned, relieved, or perhaps she felt nothing. Then came my parents. They called immediately. One call, then another, then another. I didn't answer. The first text came from my father. "I know you're angry, but in the end, you're still my son. Family is family. Come back home." Then my mother. "I'm sorry for everything. I know you're hurt, but we're still family. We can start over, my love." More messages followed, each one desperately trying to pull me back, as if they had only realized I could walk away from their lives forever. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I typed one final message. "Consider me dead." I hit send. Then I deleted their numbers, turned off my phone, and looked out the window. 2 months later, I entered a city where no one knew my name. No one knew my past, no judging eyes, no more lies, just me and a life I could finally rebuild from scratch. I rented a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood, nothing extravagant, nothing big, but it was mine, and no one could take it away from me. In those first days, I truly learned how to live alone. In the mornings, I drank coffee on my balcony. In the afternoons, I worked and spent time with myself. No more phone calls filled with blame. In the evenings, I walked through unfamiliar streets, breathed in the fresh air, and felt something I had never felt: peace. And then one day, I met her. She didn't know who I used to be. She didn't know what I had been through. She just saw me, not the ungrateful son, not the family betrayer, not the selfish brother, just me, and I fell in love. We built a new life together, without the shadows of the past or injustice. And now, 3 years after leaving New York, our twin babies will be born in just 2 weeks. 2 innocent lives who will never know favoritism, who will never know betrayal. I look at their ultrasound photo and whisper to myself, I will never let them go through what I did. I will be a good father, a fair father. I lost a family, but I am creating a new one, a family that deserves to exist. And that is my story. If you were in my position, what would you do? I chose to walk away, to free myself from the pain that chained me for so long. But was it the right choice? Was I wrong to leave my family? Or was I protecting myself? Let me know your thoughts. I genuinely want to hear them. 5 stories, 5 different lives, but they all reveal one painful truth. Sometimes the people closest to us, the ones we trust the most, are the ones who hurt us the deepest. Parents who play favorites, siblings who take kindness for granted, relatives who exploit, manipulate, and abandon us when we need them the most. And from that, there's a powerful lesson. Don't let your kindness become a tool for others to take advantage of. Learn to say no to unreasonable demands. Learn to stand up for yourself, even if it means walking away from people who call themselves family, because you deserve to be respected and loved, not for how much you give, but for who you are. If you see yourself in any of these stories, know this: you're not alone. Many have felt what you feel and made it through. I hope today's stories give you the strength to be braver, to stand taller, and to build the life you truly deserve. If you found this video meaningful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep sharing powerful, heartfelt stories like these. Thank you for watching until the very end, and wishing you a peaceful, relaxing, and inspiring weekend ahead.